Every time a new Pokemon TCG set is released, there is a list of competitive cards that you need to pick up to become the very best at the Pokemon TCG, and this is a guide for your Stellar Crown Buylist, your one-stop shop to becoming a Pokemon TCG master. My name is Rahul Reddy, and today we're going to be going through 3 categories. My must-buy category, my could-be a spicy pickup category, which is just some things that you could float around, try an idea out. I think it's playable, worth maybe trying if you want to. And then something that I think is a trap, which basically is just, hey, don't buy this. It's probably not worth your money. If you end up pulling it, maybe you keep it and try it out. But, you know, that's that. So if you guys do enjoy this content, this does take some time for me to make. So please like and subscribe. Each individual set, I will always do a new buy list video to get you guys all set up and ready for the competitive season. When you head to your League Cups, your regionals, your tournaments, even your local scene, you'll have the cards that you need and be ready to go. So you know what to trade for, what to pull on a pre-release, whatever you want to do. So we're going to start off with my must-buy cards, and the list is actually not that long for this set. Stellar Crown is actually one of those sets that feels like the Japanese filler set, where like a lot of the Japanese battle decks, theme decks, and fluff that we never got printed in a lot of our sets has kind of overwhelmed it. And even though this set has almost 170 cards, a lot of these cards are just pretty much garbage. But these are the cream of the crop, the cards that I think are going to stand out quite a bit and make an impact. We have the 4 Joltik, and its attack is one of the most powerful attacks on a small, weenie Pokemon I've seen in a long time. Being able to accelerate 2 Lightning and 2 Grass from your deck means you can power up a lot of big attackers as well as your own Galvantula for the upcoming turns. You have an insane amount of pull from your deck for Raging Bolt and things like that. And while you're pulling cards from your deck, you're also able to just thin 4 more cards, which means you're not going to be able to top deck an energy on the upcoming turn, which increases your consistency, oddly enough. Galvantula EX is a card that I think could be very, very strong, especially with its first attack that does 220 damage to any EXs or V Pokemon. Almost every V Pokemon has less than 220 HP if it's not a V-Star, V-Max, whatever. So you can take out a lot of those baby Pokemon before they even can evolve to their final forms. And then EX Pokemon as a whole, all the support ones have below 220 HP. And all the big ones have a lot more than that, so you gotta figure out how to deal with that later on. But then you have Galvantula's second attack, which is an item lock attack, which can slow down decks as long as you need until you can get back up to that first attack to clean up the game. If you can take maybe 1 knockout with the second attack and just take your time to slow your opponent down by 1 turn, it could be what turns the tide of battle, especially in a game state like this. Next up, we have a 4/4 copy of the Noctowl line. Noctowl has a ability called Jeweled Hunt, which says if you have a terrestrialized Pokemon in play, you can get any 2 trainer cards and put them into your hand when you evolve it, which is an incredible ability. That's a supporter, that's a stadium, that's a trainer, that's an item, that's a tool, whatever you want it to be. It just makes it happen. The last time we saw this kind of agency in the format was with Inteleon, Shady Dealings, and it was one of the most insane abilities that the Pokemon TCG has ever seen. This comes with the caveat of terrestrialized Pokemon, but there is a lot of really cool terrestrialized Pokemon in the format that, you know, can make a swing, and Terapagos, one of the ones we're about to talk about, is one of the most impactful ones. So in addition to these beautiful birds, we have a Fan Rotom that can go get us the cards. Rotom says on your first turn, you can use this ability. You can get 3 colorless Pokemon for under 100 HP and put them into your hand. So now with a simple Buddy Buddy Poffin, Ultra Ball, or Nest Ball, this can become 2 Hoot Hoots and a Noctowl, and all of a sudden your opponent is now in a position where they have to Iono your Noctowl away because you have a guaranteed potentially 2 more cards of anything, so you can do whatever you want on turn 2 realistically. And that's just such an incredible amount of agency. And Fan Rotom can be searched by a lot of pieces like I just mentioned: Buddy Puffin, Artisan, Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, just whatever you want to do. So this card is just so versatile and enables this Noctowl strategy quite a bit. Then we have the Bouffalant, which says for every other Bouffalant in play, your colorless Pokemon takes 60 less damage. So you can make a very, very bulky Terapagos, being able to use Terapagos over and over again because the first attack only requires 2 colorless energies, and even though the second attack is a little bit more outlandish and out there to get to, you could just keep chaining the first attack, doing tons of damage, building one big Terapagos over and over again, using cards like Sharon's Care to pick back up this Terapagos, or Penny even, and reset the board, reset up a Terapagos, and if your opponent can't beat through these turtles, well, I don't know, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle time, you know? Whatever that means. Then we have 4 Terapagos. This card is the shining star of the set because it enables a lot of these strategies with the Noctowl and the Area Zero Underground Expedition Stadium. For now, we probably will have more terrestrialized Pokemon in the future, but for the time being, this is the best basic that kind of enables all these strategies. Its first attack does 30 times the number of bench Pokemon you have, which 150 isn't amazing, but when you add in the Stadium card, you can get to 240, which can clean up a lot of things, especially with tools, or even 150 is enough to two-shot a majority of things in format. And the second attack does 180, and you can't hit it in with basics, so it creates this very awkward board state for some of these bigger aggro decks that have been roaming around in the format. And potentially could just put yourself in a position where it's like, hey, you don't have an answer to my Terapagos? That's crazy. You can boss around it, take another Terapagos, take a Noctowl, whatever you want, but my one Terapagos is going to be able to outlast a lot of your attacks, and with the Bouffalance, it becomes 290 effectively. And they're just basically easy bench Pokemon to put on the board that you can wipe off if your Stadium ever gets bumped. The Area Underground Zero Expedition, whatever this stadium is called, allows you to have 8 bench if you have a terrestrialized Pokemon, which is a really, really cool ability. I think this is going to prompt a Sudowoodo style like bench lock ability coming up in the next couple of sets, but for the time being, you have an unlimited 8-person bench, bringing back a pseudo Skyfield. Terapagos very easily enables this for a lot of decks. I don't think a lot of decks besides the Palkia Terapagos strategy really want to utilize this one as obviously, but Terapagos can use this to use all those support Pokemon, put that Fan Rotom down, put those Hoot Hoots down. My Stadium got bumped, that's cool. Let me just discard these guys that aren't doing anything anyway, because Fan Rotom's outlived its use. These Noctowls have outlived their use once they've evolved. So it's just a very easy strategy where like you have a lot of discard fodder, so you don't even care if your Stadium gets bumped, and your damage keeps ramping up while you're setting up your Terapagoses. Briar is a really cool supporter card that is, I think, going to change the course of the game, because Briar says if you're exactly at 2 prize cards remaining, you can take an additional prize card when you take a knockout, which means that decks that revolve around having a 1 prize plus Iono strategy against decks that can terrestrialize, meaning Charizard, Ogerpon, Terapagos, things like that, you really can't answer that well enough anymore. I think it creates this dichotomy of, okay, they can just get Briar and I'm in a really bad spot because now my Radiant Charizard can't do what it needs to do. My 1 prize attacker that's nichely slotted into this deck can't do what it's supposed to do. So Briar is one of those cards that I think is very cool. I would just pick up 2 copies. I don't think any deck will ever play more than 1 copy, but just in case, I would just grab a second. It's probably going to be a couple of pennies. Yeah. Then we have Crispy. I think his name is Crispy. I really like Crispy, but everyone in my team hates Crispy, so, you know, I'm a Crispy lover. Shout out my boys who love Crispy in chat. Let me know if in the comments and you like Crispy. I don't even know what he's from in the game, but I love Crispy. I feel like this card has to be broken because it gets you 2 different kinds of energy from your deck, attaches one automatically to your active Pokemon, and puts the other one in your hand. So with a lot of these new terrestrialized Pokemon, all their abilities or attacks are really, really weird. So you can basically get to these weird energy costs by pulling the energies out of your deck, and by using Crispy, you can get to the perfect, like, oh, I have only played 2 fighting energies in my Galvantula deck. Let me go get that 1 fighting immediately off the rip and put the other energy requirement that I need into my hand, which becomes an attachment. So it just expedites the game and just makes it easier. Obviously, I think there's a lot of decks that can utilize this in the Crystallized strategy or Terrestrialized strategy. The biggest one is Dragapult to me. I think Dragapult can make a lot of use out of this. But maybe it's just worse than playing something like Mela. But I think Crispy is really good because you don't have a condition of something had to get knocked out last turn. So Crispy can be like, oh, I missed turn 1 attachment, but I have Candy Dragapult on turn 2. I can go Candy Dragapult into Crispy, get my attack off anyway, and a Dragapult DX is very scary to be staring down. Same with this Terapagos. You can get the Terapagos powered up in basically 1 turn along with these Glass Trumpets. So I think Crispy's got to be a pretty broken card. Yeah. Then we have these Glass Trumpets, which says you can attach a basic energy to 2 different colorless Pokemon from your discard. So this basically enables your Terapagos strategy and any other colorless Pokemon that are good in the format. I know the ones that come to mind off the rip are Blissey, Wordier, stuff like that. So it basically just creates this like double dark patch that's absolutely insane across the board. So I think this card is just going to be really good for its entire lifetime. Then we have Giant Tree, which allows you to, if a Pokemon's already been in play for a turn, it can skip and evolve, and basically it's like a candy. So it can be really good in these setup decks like Dragapult, Pidgeot, Charizard, decks that require multiple rare candies to set up multiple stage 2 lines, and it just gets it from the deck, which is really cool. And if your opponent doesn't bump it for some reason, then you get to use that multiple times, which is awesome, but it also helps your opponent, so that's something to keep in mind. But I do think this is going to enable like Stadium Warfare becoming a lot bigger in the format with the Area Zero Stadium, with the Giant Tree Stadium, so yeah. And the final card, I didn't want to do anything fancy with this, I just kind of put it on the slide because it's the last card, is the Crystallization A-Spec. It's a 1-up, so you got to grab it, and I think this is really good for all the Terra Pokemon. Good for Dragapult as an A-Spec, good for things like Greninja maybe. Could even play it in Zard. I think there's obviously better A-Specs than Zard, but it just becomes a one-off A-Spec that could be really good in any of these crystallized, terrestrialized strategies, and I think it could be very good. Now we're at the spicy pickup strategy. It's going to be a lot quicker. We're going to go fast, so be ready. I don't know why some of these image qualities suck. That's not on me. That's on PokeBeach. But decks like Hydrapple these are all things that could be cool, funny, good. I don't know. It's up to you. You can try it out. I'm not going to probably. Maybe I'll make a video on them if I want to have fun, you know? But these are like more for fun cards. I think Hydrapple is really cool because it gets like infinite grass energy on the board very quickly and does a ton of damage. But it is a stage 2. So something like Raging Bolt, just utilizing what already has on the board is much better, I think. In a sense that, you know, having to set up a stage 2 and doing the same thing that something like Raging Bolt already does. This Salazzle is really cool because you can pair it with Xerosic's Machinations and get your opponent down to basically like a 0-card hand. I feel like there's got to be some insane strategy that revolves around that. I'm not big brain enough to figure it out. So someone out there will do it, and I think it'll be really fun because I don't know what your win con is after that, but you can get him to a 0-card hand at least. I think Cinderace's attacks do enough damage that it's actually really scary, but the problem is it's again a stage 2, and the energy typings are not cohesive whatsoever, so it makes this deck really hard to set up with like probably the worst like assortment of support Pokemon across the board, which is why it's in this category. Lapras is really cool because I think you have the attack that gets any energies from your top 20. That's ridiculous. Like, I don't know what's going to actually use that and how we're actually going to make this work, but that seems pretty insane if we can have something that the payoff actually works out with. Obviously, I don't know what the payoff is right now, so I really don't know if it's good. That's why it's in here. Next up, we have the Kofu strategy, I guess, like the Kofu supporter, the Crabominable, and the Venezuela. All these three are like around this Kofu card that says like if you have a Kofu in the discard, your attacks are 1 less. So you basically like try to spam all 4 Kofu as quickly as possible and play this fun strategy out. Could be really good. The attacks seem like they do a ton of damage. It's like a League Challenge, League Cup level deck. I wouldn't personally take this to a bigger tournament, but it seems kind of fun, interesting to try out. I think Dachshund could be really good because it heals all your evolved Pokemon. So eventually down the line, I feel like there's got to be a strategy where you can play like a 1/1 Dachshund in a deck that already plays a lot of evolved Pokemon, and you can just heal everything, and you know we're vibing. So I feel like it's got to be good at some point in its lifetime. Archaludon, I think this guy's called. For retreat to metal types, can be really good. Metal types are pretty big and bulky in the Pokemon history. So there's probably a strategy that really revolves around being able to use Archaludon or something to keep pivoting attackers around, because there's probably some good metal types out there eventually. So unless there's no good metal types that ever exist, this card will not see play, I guess. But it is a stage 1, so it's also like pretty bad on the downside to actually get this set up. So that's another reason it's in here. The Bomb Ace spec, I think, is just not that great compared to a lot of their Ace specs. Like, I don't think the practicality and use is like amazing, but I think because it is an Ace spec, I would still pick one up, because something like Neo Upper, it could randomly find a use in its life cycle, and I think that's more than enough. Then we have Gravity Stone, which I think is really cool for like control style decks that could utilize this. I don't know what would on the time being, but if you could figure it out, your guess is as good as mine. Here's my It's a Trap, and I'm going to fair warning you guys, you can skip from here if you want or end the video, but please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it thus far. But a lot of these cards are just the filler cards that Japan kind of got in their theme decks and battle decks and stuff like that, gym battle decks, whatever, and we didn't see yet. So a lot of this stuff here is just like all these random EXs that are like filler that just don't actually do anything, like Garganacl, Lucario, Medicham, Venusaur, Blastoise, like Melmetal, Earthworm. Like, these cards all suck. Like, there's no other way to put it, and they're just kind of here because they're set fillers, and I just don't really like that it happens, but it has to happen, I guess, because we don't get the same kind of theme decks as Japan. But, you know, it is what it is, and that is the end of the video. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys are going to be able to go buy some cards. Check out TCG Player if you're going to use that. My link is in the description down below. All you have to do is click that before you add cards to your cart, and it will give the channel 3.5% of your proceeds. It does help out the channel quite a bit. Everything I make from that goes right back into the channel. Besides that, please like and subscribe. That's all I really ask of you guys. Have fun, good luck, and I'll see you guys in the Stellar Crown format with some banger tournament reports.